Hi, and welcome to the Louisiana Department of Education's Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP, presentation on the preschool meal pattern. In today's training, we want to explore the meal pattern, discuss co-mingling, and review some frequently asked questions. Preschool meals served through the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National School Lunch Program, or NSLP, and School Breakfast Program, or SBP, are designed to meet the nutritional needs of young children. Children receive meals that follow the preschool meal pattern if they are a student in the preschool grade level. There are two groups under the preschool meal pattern. The first is ages 1 and 2, and the second is children 3 through 5 years old. On October 1st, 2017, the updated Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP, meal pattern was implemented for children not yet in kindergarten. Let's discuss meal patterns. Here's an overview of the preschool meal pattern. We will focus on the 3 to 5 years old age grade group because this is the most common age group that is enrolled in schools. Please note that these serving sizes are the minimum amounts that must be provided. They're also age appropriate for young children. The preschool meal pattern consists of 3 food components that must be provided as part of the reimbursable breakfast: milk, fruit and/or vegetables, and bread grains. These required components match the school breakfast program. This chart compares the preschool breakfast meal pattern with the school breakfast program meal pattern for grades K through 5. As you can see, the serving sizes for the preschool breakfast meal pattern are smaller than the school breakfast program, and offer versus serve is not an option. The 5 required meal components for lunch are milk, meat or meat alternate, grains, fruits, and vegetables. Notice that fruits and vegetables are 2 separate components at lunch. All 5 components must be served as part of a reimbursable lunch. This chart compares the preschool lunch meal pattern with the National School Lunch Program meal pattern for grades K through 5. As you can see, the serving sizes for the preschool lunch meal pattern are smaller than those in the National School Lunch Program, except for the meat alternate component. The pre-K meal pattern requires 1.5 ounces of meat alternate, but the K to 5 meal lunch pattern only requires 1 ounce of meat alternate. Also, offer versus serve is not an option in the lunch pre-K meal pattern. Here is the pre-K snack requirement. 2 of the 5 components must be served together in the listed quantities. So for instance, for ages 3 to 5, a snack could be 1/2 cup of milk and 1/2 cup of vegetables. It could also be 1/2 cup of fruit and a 1/2 ounce equivalent of grain. We will now take a look at each individual meal component and review the guidelines, requirements, and special considerations for each. Fluid milk is the first of 5 components we will review. Only unflavored milk may be served to preschool students. It can be low-fat or fat-free for children ages 2 to 5 years old. Milk substitutions require the same documentation as in the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program. A signed diet prescription must be provided when non-dairy substitute is needed for medical reasons. This diet prescription must include the required substitution and must be signed by a licensed medical provider with prescription writing authority. In the state of Louisiana, this is a medical doctor, a physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner. When a milk substitute is requested as a preference, the substitution request must state a suitable milk equivalent. Sponsors must make reasonable accommodations, but also must remain in compliance with the fluid milk substitution requirements. At breakfast, vegetables and fruits are combined into one component. Fruit and vegetables are separate individual components at lunch. Vegetables may also be used as a substitute for the fruit component at lunch. If vegetables are used instead of fruit at lunch, two different vegetables must be served. Juice must be pasteurized, 100% full strength juice. It can be served no more than once per day. Be sure to check that juice is not served to pre-K students for breakfast, lunch, and snack on the same day if following the pre-K meal pattern. This slide provides an overview of the fruit and vegetable components. A few reminders include that juice can only be provided once per day, fruits and vegetables are considered one component at breakfast, and a second vegetable may be served in place of fruit during lunch. At least one grain serving per day must be whole grain. If you only serve your pre-K students one meal, then that meal must have a whole grain rich grain. If serving several meals or snacks during the day, then you can choose which meal will contain the whole grain rich item. Grain-based desserts are not creditable in the pre-K meal pattern, and breakfast cereals have a sugar limit. Also, as a reminder, meat alternates can be substituted for grains during breakfast up to 3 times per week. Desserts can easily be a source of empty calories, full of sugar and saturated fats. Grain-based desserts cannot be credited in the pre-K meal pattern. Those items are identified on the Exhibit A grain chart with a footnote number 3 or 4. USDA Policy Memo, June 30th, 2017, CACFP grain-based desserts in the CACFP updated Exhibit A to include graham crackers and animal crackers as allowable grains. Breakfast cereals include ready-to-eat instant and hot cereals as outlined in the bread grain chart. Breakfast cereals must be whole grain, enriched, or fortified, and must contain no more than 6 grams of sugar per dry ounce in the pre-K meal pattern. This slide provides a summary of the pre-K meal pattern grain requirements. A few reminders include grain-based desserts do not credit in the pre-K meal pattern, breakfast cereals have a sugar limit, and you must provide at least one whole grain item per day. The meat alternate component can include food items such as lean meat, poultry or fish, eggs, dry beans or peas, yogurt, and nuts and seeds. Only commercially prepared firm and extra firm tofu may be used as a meat alternate. Tofu serving sizes of 2.2 ounces by weight or 1/4 cup of tofu must contain at least 5 grams of protein to credit as 1 ounce equivalent of meat alternate. Meat components may be used to satisfy the entire grain component requirement at breakfast up to 3 times per week. At breakfast, 1 ounce equivalent of meat alternate is equivalent to 1 ounce equivalent of grain. For example, an egg, cheese stick, or yogurt could be part of a reimbursable breakfast and credit as a meal alternate substitute for the grain component. Yogurt provided as part of a reimbursable meal or snack must contain no more than 23 grams of sugar per 6 ounces. As a reminder for the meat alternate component for the pre-K meal pattern, 1.5 ounces of meat alternate is required for the lunch pre-K as compared to the 1 ounce requirement for the K-5 lunch meal pattern. The pre-K breakfast meal pattern may serve meat alternate in place of bread grains up to 3 times per week. And lastly, the pre-K meal pattern has a sugar limit for yogurt. When following the preschool meal pattern, offer versus serve is not allowed and all components must be served. Offer versus serve is not an option because young children need time to explore different and new flavors, textures, and foods. Offer versus serve is only allowed for preschool-age children when they are commingled and following the K-5 meal pattern for breakfast or lunch. Foods that are deep fat fried on site are not creditable in the pre-K meal pattern. The following items can be purchased from commercial manufacturers: pan fried, flash fried, par fried. However, it's not allowable to deep fry when reheating these items. USDA released a policy memo on June 30th, 2017 that recognizes that some schools serve meals to preschoolers and grades K through 5 students in the same service area at the same time. These commingled situations may create counting and claiming issues because it's challenging to determine during a meal service if a child is in preschool or K to 5, and the meal patterns for each are slightly different. For example, children may arrive on the same bus and enter the cafeteria for breakfast together. In this situation, it may be difficult for the meal service staff to determine which children are in preschool or K to 5. However, when students are served in the same area, a single menu flexibility is allowed to reduce administrative burdens and ensure the integrity of the programs. Therefore, schools that serve meals to preschoolers and K to 5 students in the same service area at the same time may choose to follow the grade appropriate meal pattern for each grade group or serve the K to 5 meal pattern under parts 7 CFR 210.10 and 220.8 for both grade groups. USDA strongly encourages schools to find ways to serve age-appropriate meals to preschoolers. Commingled meal service can be avoided by providing breakfast in the classroom and staggered meal service times. Reasons to avoid commingled service include: number one, serving preschoolers separately from older students may allow for closer supervision of the younger children, thereby allowing staff to better assist students with food packaging and to monitor mealtime behaviors that may increase the risk of choking. Number two, younger children may feel distracted or overwhelmed by the older children, which may affect the amount they eat within the provided mealtime. And number three, the preschool meal pattern provides the amounts and types of foods at meals that most younger children need for healthy growth and development. Now let's discuss some frequently asked questions. Number one, if a school serves pre-K students and K to 5 students in the same service area at the same time, may the school opt to serve one meal pattern to all students? The answer is yes. In commingling situations such as this one, schools may opt to serve the K to 5 meal pattern to all students. Question number two. If a 5-year-old student is in preschool, which meal pattern does the school follow for that student? And the answer is, in situations when a 5-year-old is in preschool, the school must follow the preschool meal pattern requirements. Similarly, if a 4-year-old is in kindergarten, the student must follow the K to 5 meal pattern. Question number three. If a school serves preschoolers lunch under NSLP and a snack through CACFP, can the school serve juice at both lunch and snack? The answer is yes. While the intention of the requirement is to serve juice up to once per day, FNS understands the logistical challenges when a school operates both the school meal programs and the CACFP. FNS encourages the school to serve juice only once per day as a best practice. Thank you so much for joining us for this CACFP preschool meal pattern presentation. If you have any questions, please contact the Louisiana Department of Education, Division of Nutrition Support at Child Nutrition Programs at la.gov or by calling 225-342-9661. Thank you.